All right, and we are back here on the GSMC Football Podcast. And for the third part of the show, we're going to talk about the cuts around the league so far. There was a lot of teams that made some cuts. I know, again, I touched upon the Bills, releasing Jordan Poyer and Tre'Davious White, Deontay Hardy, Mitch Morse, to clear up a lot of cap space. And then also the Dolphins as well. They cut Xavier Howard, who was a top corner at one point, Emmanuel Agba, Jerome Baker most recently as well. The Eagles, they cut longtime corner Avonte Maddox. The Broncos, they released Russell Wilson and Justin Simmons, who was there for a long time, one of their safeties. And so they drafted him the year after they won the Super Bowl, the Broncos. And since then, they have made no playoff appearances. None. Now, they did get close in 2023. They did finish with the winning record the year after the Super Bowl. They went 9-7, and that was with Trevor Siemian and Paxton Lynch as the quarterbacks. But yeah, they came up short, and then it just then the Broncos really just started to decline because then guys from the Super Bowl year left, and then guys like DeMarcus Ware retired, and Emmanuel Sanders eventually left. So it just just to name a few, Demaryius Thomas started to decline. It's a lot of things. The Broncos really took a nosedive after the Super Bowl, and they traded away Von Miller as well. And the quarterback carousel, just, you want to talk about a team that hasn't been able to find a quarterback, and we've said this. I mean, how many quarterbacks did they go through? So many. And you thought with Russ that was going to be it, but no, that ended up not being the case. So, in 2023, Justin Simmons finished with 53 solo tackles, 70 total tackles, 1 sack, 2 forced fumbles, 1 fumble recovery, and 3 interceptions. And that was in, of course, it doesn't show the amount of games that he played in. Hold on. Here we go. He played in 15 games. But yeah, I mean, he's been a guy that's been, for the most part, relatively healthy throughout his career. 13 games his first 2 seasons. 16 the next 3, 17 in 2021, 12 in 2022, and 15 in 2023. So yeah, he finishes with 442 solo tackles, 603 total tackles, 4.5 sacks, 5 forced fumbles, 3 fumble recoveries, 30 interceptions. So, we'll see what kind of interest he gets from teams. I definitely think, he's going to find some interest. He's 30 years old, so we'll see. What team decides to pick him up. Again, that was a long-time Bronco, and they released him. So also the Panthers, they released Hayden Hurst, who was one of their off-season acquisitions. I think he's a solid tight end, but it was a kind of a rough season for him. In 2023, he actually only played in 9 games, 32 targets, 18 receptions for 184 yards and a touchdown. Again, was one of their off-season acquisitions, and didn't really pan out. So we'll see if anybody looks to bring him in, maybe to be a backup tight end, or a team desperate for a tight end. Maybe if with the Giants, if Darren Waller ends up retiring, maybe the Giants end up picking him up. I don't know. I see anytime there's a player that there's players that I'll just be like, well, the Giants could use him, but again, that's only if Darren Waller ends up retiring, because they also do have Daniel Bellinger as well. The Lions, they released a cornerback, Tracy Walker. Jaguars released a couple of their defensive backs, Darius Williams, Rayshawn Jenkins, I did talk about I did mention Darius Williams getting released recently. The Bears, they released center Cody Whitehair and Eddie Jackson. Eddie Jackson was a longtime Bear. That was earlier in the offseason. They ended up releasing him. But, again, they did bring back Jalen Johnson. I just wanted to pull it. Because Eddie Jackson was a really good player for them. So I actually wanted to pull up his stats with the Bears. So, only 32 solo tackles, 1 interception, 2023. How many games did he play? I don't think he played in that many games. Oh, no, yeah, he played in 12. So, 2017 played in 16 games, 2018 14 games, 16 in the next 2 years, 14 in 2021, 12 in 2022 and 2023. Finishes with 355 solo tackles, 459 total tackles, 2 sacks, 10 forced fumbles, 6 fumble recoveries, 15 interceptions. And, first 2 seasons, he had a defensive touchdown, 1 in 2017 and 2 in 2018. So, again, we'll see where he ends up. Another safety that's 30 years old. I think a team will pick him up. But we'll just have to wait and see. I talked about Valdez-Scantling getting released. The Chiefs saved a lot of cap space by doing so. Alexander Madison, another guy that was released. The Vikings, they ended up cutting ties with him after his down 2023. And, after Dalvin Cook left, he was going to be the guy. And he did not score a rushing touchdown. He only had 1 touchdown, and that was a receiving touchdown. He ended up finishing with 700 rushing yards, no touchdowns, and he averaged 3.9 yards per carry. And you go back to 2019 and 2020 in his backup role, averaged 4.6 and 4.5 in 2019 and 2020. He just and he did get a lot of carries, 180 attempts, but which was the most of his career in a single season. But it just it didn't really amount to anything. I mean, he just could not get into the end zone. He had a fumbling issue. It just it did not pan out. And then the Vikings, they obviously traded for Cam Akers, and then he ends up tearing his Achilles, unfortunately. Then Ty Chandler kind of took over, and he was making plays. But it just that could be a destination right there, the Vikings, for a running back. We'll see what they end up doing there. The Rams, they also released one of their center, Brian Allen. The Jets, they released C.J. Uzama. I know my friends that are Jet fans were happy about that. He was obviously brought in, and he was a decent tight end with the Bengals, but didn't really do much in his 2 seasons with the Jets. 2022, he had 21 receptions for 232 yards, 2 touchdowns, and then in 2023, he had 8 receptions for 58 yards and a touchdown. So, they cut ties with him. Rutgers, you expect is going to take the next step, the young tight end. And then also, Tyler Conklin was making plays for them as well. So, but Uzama is out. The Eagles, like I said, they cut Avonte Maddox. They also cut Kevin Byard. They acquired him from the Titans. So now he's going to be on the market. Talked about the Seahawks and their moves that they made. They cut Quandre Diggs and Jamal Adams. Jamal Adams, of course, was a part of that big trade with the Jets. So they ended up releasing him. And injuries was a problem for him. In 2023, 34 solo tackles, no interceptions. He only played in 9 games. And unfortunately, in 2022, he got hurt in the first game of the season. But his first 2 seasons with the Jets, he played 16 games, 14 in 2019, 12 the next 2 with the Seahawks, then 1 in 2022, and then 9 in 2023. So it really just has not panned out for the Seahawks. So they ended up moving off of him. And Quandre Diggs, he was another player they got from the Lions. 31 years old now. So they ended up moving off of him. In 2023, played in 17 games. He had 63 solo tackles, 95 total tackles, only one interception. So yeah, I mean he was relatively healthy for the Seahawks after they acquired him. In 2019, he only played in 10 games. 2020 played in 16, but yeah, then the last 3 seasons he played in every single game. So he's a guy that stays relatively healthy. So we'll see, maybe a team ends up picking him up if they need some safety help. And then also Shaq Barrett, he ended up getting cut by the Buccaneers. Again, was a part of the Super Bowl run. And I think a team definitely will be interested in bringing him in. He finished with 4.5 sacks on the season. 2019 had a great year, 19.5 sacks. Then in 2020 had 8. 2021 had 10. 2022 3, and then 4.5 in 2023. And then the Commanders, they ended up cutting Logan Thomas, who, yeah, he's been hurt over the last few seasons, and of course they replaced him with Zach Ertz. So he ended up finishing the season with 496 receiving yards and 4 touchdowns. Played in 16 games, actually. But yeah, they ended up moving off of him. And they brought in Ertz. But that's that's pretty much it with all the major cuts. Again, talked about the Bills and the Dolphins already. But we'll see if these players end up getting picked up. I think some of them definitely have a chance to. Justin Simmons, of course, I think will end up going somewhere else. A team will definitely be interested in him. But we'll have to wait and see. So, like I said, free agency is upon us, and just have to keep an eye on, a lot of these situations for these players where they could potentially go. But when we come back from our final break of the show, we're going to discuss some of the with free agency being upon us. We'll talk about some of the impactful NFL free agent signings of 2023 from last year. With free agency being upon us. Listen, there's a lot of big names out there, and some of them, of course, got franchise tagged. But we could see some trades, and again, Justin Fields, like I said, that's a name to keep an eye on as well, because it seems like the Bears are probably going to end up trading him. It's a matter of when, not if, at this point. So, yeah, there's going to be plenty of stuff going on in the coming weeks as we move along here in the off season. But yeah, that's why I just wanted to touch upon the impactful signings from 2023 with free agency officially coming up next week. So that is what we will discuss when we come back from our final break of the show. So that being said, stick around and we'll be right back here on the GSMC Football Podcast.